that's why I told you that sometimes what is untruthful and false can be much more effective in certain contexts than what is the truth. Right?
Yeah.
Even a superstition. I'm against holding on to superstitions and desperately clinging to them forever. But in the meantime, for certain individuals, they can be useful stepping stones. We just have to examine, do these superstitions and beliefs help to cultivate internal qualities that will eventually lead them towards their well-being? Right? There are some beliefs which have no grounds in reality. That God is an all-loving, merciful being watching over humanity, and if you want to attain to union with God, you must also be merciful, compassionate. Right? There are such beliefs, and those people who take them seriously do develop those qualities internally. But the problem is that they find it very difficult to let go of those ideas, and they fail to recognize that the true source of their knowledge and experience emerges from within. So, how many prophets have happened on the planet where they came to expanded states of perception, and because in their perception the feeling of their being was so enlarged that they felt like they were being visited by an angel or some cosmic being, or this is an encounter with the Supreme Being, right?
Would you feel that these people who are becoming compassionate and caring because of the idea of God and trying to be more like God, do you think those people's compassionate is legitimate, like a real legitimate, authentic, that's the word, authentic compassion? Because I think it's not a real authentic compassion, because I think authentic compassion would naturally come from more knowing yourself rather than a deity.
Well, it depends what you define as genuine and authentic. Remember, these words that we are using so casually, love, compassion, truth, etc., or non-attachment, all these words, we have to remember that there's many different depths and degrees of love and compassion and truth and wisdom and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe some person, he's not absolutely established in a way of balance and non-attachment, but he knows some quality at least of some balance. In certain situations, he can handle in a way that's much more balanced. In other situations, he's thrown off balance, right? With wisdom, maybe again, this multi-dimensional mind is usually, there's a mixture of forces working together. So maybe when it comes to certain areas of life, he does have genuine wisdom, and that wisdom has a potential to continue opening more doors. But when it comes to other areas of life, he is lacking in wisdom. So, love, for example, some people do have genuine love for their children, right? Some genuine love for their children, but to hell with the neighbor's children. To hell with the millions of children who are living all over on the rest of the earth, right? Their love is coming from their sense of identification. It doesn't mean that it's not genuine. It just means it's coming from a very limited space. So love for God, it's coming from their identification with God. How have they defined God? What kind of being, what does this God appreciate? What does he not appreciate? What does he value? What does he not value? And seeing those similar qualities in the world or in other people, you're projecting your love towards them. Oh, but to hell with this rest of this group. These people are on the wrong path. They are following the voice of Satan. Now, can we really say that they don't know of any quality of love or compassion? They must know some quality of love or compassion. But it is corrupted by certain blind spots that they are not able to overcome. So their love does not become more vast and inclusive. Just see, the more cosmic your perspective becomes, the more inclusive your vision becomes. when it comes to love, when it comes to wisdom, when it comes to everything. I don't like the word spiritual because there's so much heavy baggage attached to that word and can lead to so many misunderstandings. Just see it in a very practical sense. You're enlarging your perspective from a limited perspective to a more cosmic perspective. And whenever your perspective, you're looking at life with a more cosmic perspective, you have a spiritual perspective.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that, the cosmic perspective. I like saying that much more than spirituality, or I'm spiritual.
Yes, because I have to specify, what do I mean by cosmic perspective? I mean something which is more wholesome, holistic, not an understanding which is fragmented and divided, but you're having a little bit more of a sense of how everything in this creation is interconnected. Having a realistic perspective of reality as it is. And maybe that doesn't have to do with absolute reality all the time. But even when it comes to practical realities, we are just one small planet in a huge Milky Way galaxy, which is one galaxy out of billions of other galaxies. We don't have another Earth-like planet that is to be seen in sight. You look in so many other directions. There are other Earth-like planets, but to reach to those worlds, we will have to travel light years to reach to those places. And in the meantime, we are treating this Earth like it is a waste disposal. It's just a wasteland, a garbage disposal for our use. We need a more realistic and cosmic perspective. If we damage this planet, eventually, and continue going at the pace that we are going, we will lead ourselves to our own extinction.
And I think it's because of their identification of there being an afterlife afterwards. That's what I think. I think if people had a cosmic perspective, instead of their identifying with just this deity or God that protect them after life, then they wouldn't be doing this stuff ever.
Or you will be rewarded for your good doings. You'll be punished for all your bad doings.
Yeah, it's awful.
Well, fine. Let's just assume there is such a God, okay? For the sake of argument, let's assume there's such a God who's watching over humanity in the way that these people are claiming. Obviously, seeing the events that are happening in the world, he does not seem to be too interested with interfering. Why some people are born with deformities? They didn't do anything wrong in their life. Just at birth, they're born with physical deformities or mental disorders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people who are very hard workers get exploited. Other people who are greedy and corrupt rise in the society and reach heights of power. And if there's really such a compassionate, loving God who's watching over this, the fact that he's not interfering should be evidence that he's not compassionate or loving. But for the sake of argument, if there is such a God, looking at the evidence that exists in the world, he does not seem the least bit interested in interfering. So whether God exists or whether God does not exist, that does not exempt you from taking responsibility for your own life and for your own well-being, does it? So at the end of the day, God exists. What are you left with in terms of practical life? You still have the sufferings of your own mind. God does not exist. Still you must deal with the sufferings of your own mind. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So either way, the question of God becomes irrelevant.